So I'm going to stand here, and I want to introduce you to Graham Stabler, who's going to do the next talk. He's a local person too, and he comes from Savannah, and he's got a stone which had it for 16 years. So thank you for doing that. Thanks but no thanks, because I didn't really want to be here. But anyway, so I'm here, so thank you. And what are you going to talk about? And well, you just shut up and sit down and listen and you'll know. So anyway, that's it. I'm here. What I want to do is, I want to make people feel comfortable that just because you're at a stoma, you can do things. You can do stuff that normal people do, everyone else in the world can do, and there's not much that you can't do. Sure, you can't go and drink a bottle of wine with dinner, but apart from that, you can get away with stuff. Now, you could be excused for thinking that my talk's going to be about skinny dipping in Funnel Creek with a stoma, but it's not, and there's going to be no photos of that either. And then I thought I should call it something like what the, because young people say what the all the time, and I don't know what they mean, but I think it means what the hell, but they might have other words. And of course it's really topical for us anyway, but the other thing I thought maybe I should call was shit happens. And we all know what that is. So in order to, you picked the right time, Paris, finish question and answer. I did make an excuse for you.
Well, I've got to catch a plane shortly, so we'll be fast or something.
Alright, I'll let you off this time. Until next time you come. So in order to do and say what I want to say, I need to tell you a little bit about why and what happened to me. And just to show you that you can have the extent of the things that I've had and still look normal and get abused for coming out of a handicapped toilet looking as though there's nothing wrong with you. So I had rectal cancer in 1999. I had surgery, I had an ostomy for 4 months, and then I had a reversal. And that reversal, for me, there were problems, and it doesn't work for everybody to have problems. A lot of people have a reversal and have a perfectly normal, happy life thereafter. That didn't work for me. So I ended up with fecal incontinence, and for 6 years. And some of the next couple of stories are about that. And it's a matter of how you deal with it. It's a matter of how you look at the world after. And this is just a simulation. This isn't my car, it's my neighbour's car. But there was a time when I was driving, working from Mackay to a place near Glendon. And I had to stop probably 5 or 6 or 8 times and dash off into the bushes or under a bridge. And I saw myself, and I always have half a dozen pairs of jocks with me, but I ran out of jocks on this trip. And I got to Lake Elphinstone and I went in, and decided camel trough softened as a tap, so I washed all my jocks. But I didn't have any spare to put on. So I drove from there along the road to Glendon, and I had jocks on that aerial, I had jocks on the aerial there, jocks here, jocks on the rearview mirror on the other side, a pair of jocks like this in my hand, holding it at the window to get the air through. And I'm thinking, now I'm doing 100 k's this way, people doing 100 k's the other way, they won't recognise me. And no one ever rang me up and abused me, so I think that's probably right. Another time, I was driving down the road to Park Creek, and this is just north of Funnel Creek it was, and as that I'm saying, you know, when you've got to go, you've got to go. Now, I'm here to tell you, if you pull up your car on the wrong side of the road, facing the wrong way because you haven't got time, and then you try to run like this, and then you're trying to pull down that wire and throw your leg through, it doesn't work. Oh, my sister's just arrived from Rocky. So this happened to me. I went through there. I found a prickly bush like that one. This isn't the exact bit of fence, but it's close. My luck wasn't in. It was prickly bush, it wasn't not prickly. I took my shoes and socks off. I was standing in bindies. I was trying to get organised to get my jeans and my jocks and everything off, and it wasn't working and it wasn't nice. So I wasn't in a very good mood, put it that way to say what I'm thinking. So I came back to the fence, threw my clothes over and said a couple of words that I normally wouldn't say, and then tried to climb through the fence. But if you're climbing through a fence and you're holding your shirt up so it doesn't get caught in the barbed wire, but more importantly, you're trying to make sure you're not going to leave your family jewels hanging on the barbed wire, that was my dilemma. So I knew I was only just north of Funnel Creek. So I thought, okay, I'll go to Funnel Creek. On the southern side of Funnel Creek, on the eastern side, there's a little park where you can pull up and people pull up and boil the belly and stuff like that. And you saw that picture of Funnel Creek before. So I drove across the bridge, turned left at the top of that ridge and parked in there facing the road. And I thought, no, I'll be able to go down in here and I'll be able to clean my clothes, wash my jeans, wash my jocks, keep my shirt dry and my hat and my glasses. And that was a great idea. But you can see it's fairly steep slope. And when you're trying to pull your washed jeans and things back up, you bring up water. And when you bring up water, as you know, it gets muddy. And as it gets muddy, it gets slippery. So then you go head over turkey in a Funnel Creek. So I'm up to my eyeballs in Funnel Creek. Now, the more I tried to get out, because I was wet and slippery, the less success I had. So I climbed up onto that branch. There was more water in it. I just went back and took this a different time. So I climbed up on here, chucked my clothes up, climbed up, crawled back in, and then headed up to my car up the top. So, here's my car. I'm not supposed to be in it for this story, but I'm just using that one. So that's facing, and it's not, it's at my place, but it's facing, it's supposedly, I think I might have that here. Yeah. This is Funnel Creek here. This is the highway. This is coming up that bit of a ridge, and I'm parked here with my car facing that way. So I needed to dry my clothes to get to my job to do the next job. So I'm standing here at the back of my car with my clothes all hanging here. And I had my glasses and hat on, and that's all. And my boots were wet, my socks were wet, everything was wet. And so then suddenly a car would come down here. So I would stand this corner, and as the car slowly went past, I'd reach around to here. And then a car would come this way. So I'd stand here, and I'd duck around the other side. And this went on for an hour or so while my clothes were drying. So I rang the girls at the surgery and I said, hey look, I've got to tell you a funny story, because it's funny, you've got to laugh. If you don't laugh, you're going to cry. And so I just wanted to make that point, and I've got to really almost follow this. If you can't see the funny side of things, you get yourself so down and so depressed and all that. And what's next? Oh yeah, so that's, I had a reason for putting that back there. What was it? I've got ahead of myself, of course. I'm pages ahead of myself. So anyway, that day I did manage to get all the work done and practice the 250 cattle, and fortunately the people whose place I was going to had been clients and friends of mine for many years. So for this period of time in my life, from 2000 till 2006 when I got really crook, I had a theme song. And some people here will know exactly what I'm talking about. And when Bob was talking about pouchitis, anyone that's got that will know. But my theme song was at that time, it was a Johnny Cash song, and it was called Burning Ring of Fire. You know, burn, 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 that ring of fire. Because when you've got incontinence, you've got, and Paris was talking this morning about the pH, and the difference in pH of feces and small intestinal content and large intestinal content, and scalding around your little bottom, and it burns like hell. And when it's happening all the time, and those people that are going to the toilet that we're talking about, like Luke, and they're going to the toilet 20 or 30 times a day, it's not fun. So that was my theme song at that time in my life. Now I've just got to check whether I'm going to hit myself again. In 2006, beginning of 2006, I had a regular CTs and all those things. CEOs, trip to the gastroenterologist, trip to the colorectal surgeon, and everything was good, except you know when things aren't right in yourself. And for me, I knew something wasn't right. I was going to the toilet 50 times a day, was burning like hell. At night time I couldn't get from the bed to the bathroom, so I spent half the night sitting on the toilet, and it wasn't fun, and I wasn't getting much sleep. And when you don't get much sleep, your body doesn't even suppress things, and things get worse. So one of my mates is my gastroenterologist, and I'd been down early in 2006, and they all said, yeah, you're right, you're okay. And I wasn't. And I got back and I had a CEA test, which is a marker for bowel cancer, and it was 3, and 3 is normal, anything up to 5 is normal. But for me, and because I was a vet and used to do blood tests, you sort of take an interest in levels, and for me, my CEA level had always been around about 1, and here it is at 3. And Bill says, yeah, it's all right. The GP says, yeah, it's all right. The colorectal surgeon, it's all right. I said, Bill, because he's a mate, you can say this, you can't say it to a specialist otherwise. I said, Bill, this is bullshit. This isn't right. He said, you've got to go through to get over 5. And so why I'm telling you this is that you need to take control of your own situation. You need to be confident to say, hey, look, I'm not comfortable with that answer, and ask more questions, because you need to be able to do that with your GP. You should be able to have a relationship with them that you can. I ended up going back down. Bill said, oh, I'll come back down. I went and saw the colorectal surgeon. He said, oh, I think you're all right, we'll check. I had bowel cancer going wild in my bowel, in the organs in the pelvis, and in my sacrum, in my lower spine. And it was going fairly quickly. And I was at a camp draft on Easter, Anzac weekend, and I knew it was going to be the last time I ever got to go to camp draft because I knew I was in trouble. And it was a Saturday morning, and I'd had a couple of runs, and the colorectal surgeon rang me from Brisbane. He said, hey, look, I need you down here next week. We need to start radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and we're going to have to plan what we're going to do. So my favourite old horse, who was one of those horses that just wants to go, and I used to feed him too much too. And I caught her, I saddled her up, I had a cry on the mane. And then I went for a ride for a couple of hours through the bush just to get away from everyone, and off to Brisbane on Monday. So it turned out that all those things within the pelvis were affected, but also the sacrum. So everybody's got a sacrum, and so your pelvis attaches on here, and then all the nerves come out of here that go to your legs and everything. And for me, mine had to come out. So I'm so lucky, and for every single day, I just think every day's a bonus, that I can still walk. I'm wobbly sometimes, and that's before I have that wine, Katrina. And so that's not there. So there's some nerves to my legs. S5 nerves don't work. S4 leg on this side doesn't work. So I'm still here, and I can still walk. So having had Sue Paris, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've done a great job for us.
Ciao.
So where I was up to was, yeah, I've done that page. I write pretty big, so it makes it look as though I've got a lot of pages, but it's not. I do that because I'm old and hard to see. So, and my old mare, and she only passed away this year, and she was just one of my really special mares. I've got another bit to say about her in a minute. So, I was in Brisbane, I had radiotherapy for 7 weeks. I had chemo on a drip for 7 weeks. Then 2 weeks later, I had surgery. And as I just showed you, I've had that part of my spine gone, so that's where I finished just there. And so I went into surgery. I think I was the only one, including my kids, that didn't know I was going to die and that I wasn't going to make it through. The surgery is called exoneration, and it's considered heroic surgery, and I'm one of the lucky people that have had that much removed, ended up with a colostomy, that are still here 16 years later, and like I said before. So for me, every day is a bonus. In my 6 weeks in hospital, I was really down and out, and I was really at the bottom of the barrel, and it's a bit like Luke saying how depressed he was. And I just wished I'd go, oh, crawl in. I just thought, I can't deal with this. And it was so much pain. I'm so glad now that I managed to climb back out and crawl out and stick my hands out the top of the coffin and get out and get going before they fill the hole in. But while I was there, the counsellor said to me when I was down and he was trying to make me feel better, and he said, well, what were you like before? I said, well, you couldn't knock me down with a big stick. He said, so what's different? I was like, bloody hell, here I am. I've got a tube down my nose, like you saw Luke. I got a drip in my arm for feeding, drip in my arm for fluids, a thing in my spine for pain, a drip out of my tummy because I'd done 12-hour surgery on the tummy and my spine, a drip out of my butt as well, even though they stitched my butt over. And I was sitting there thinking, how the hell can you say to me what's changed? Anyway, but it did, it changed my thoughts. I thought about it. Pain level was 9.9 out of 10, and nothing much helped, nothing that gave me help. And of course the other thing is, I'm blessed to have kids that have done really well. And my son was in surgical training at that time, and he was working at PA Hospital, and he was doing, assisting with liver transplants and doing kidney transplants. And so I was in the Wesley. So every night after he finished, he'd come over to see me, and that was great. And my daughter she's a speech pathologist, and she came every night after work, and she came over to see me, and that was lovely. So one day Stump came in, and he's just grumpy. I said, Stump, why are you so grumpy with me? He said, Dad, you're not trying hard enough. And I thought, here we go again. I was getting up, every time I got up to walk, I would faint, go head over turkey. So I had to get up really slowly, sit for a fair while, which we all know about that. And then push 2 trolleys with drips and all sorts of things and bags hanging out of me. At one time, all the dressing just was full of grog and pus, and it fell off in the floor in a corridor, and it wasn't a nice feeling. So he said, Dad, this is what I do. I do liver transplants, and we get them up the next day, and we get the more the people walk, the more exercise they do, the quicker they get over the problem and the better result. So I thought, oh, okay, I thought I was doing a pretty good job. I was walking to that sort of the ward a couple of times a day. So anyway, so I did it all because you do as your kids tell you. And so then Pen would come in, my daughter, and Dad, let's go for a walk. I said, oh, right, Pen. And it wasn't fun. Anyway, I've got another son, and he's not in the medical profession. He's an engineer, and I don't know if you know engineers, but they're different. And he was working in France at that time, but he was visiting Australia, so I knew he was coming. I was looking, oh, great, here comes James. We'll be able to just sit and talk. And he walked in the door, he said, okay, Dad, let's go for a walk. Oh, holy hell. The others have been at him already, and he hasn't even got to see me. But anyway, after all that, and talking to the counsellor, I was starting to feel better. I was starting to look for things. I was starting to think, you know, if I can get over this, when I'm strong enough, I'm going to be able to. Did I drop that other thing too? I did. I might even think about getting back on a horse, and if I can get on one side without falling off the other, then I might start riding again, because I've always loved horses, always wanted to have horses. I have had horses for a long, long time. I'm not much of a rider, but anyway, that doesn't matter. And I might even be able to go back to camp drafting. So, after a couple of weeks in hospital, and a 2-week break, and then I started 6 months of chemo. So chemo was travelling to Brisbane every second week on a Monday afternoon, 7 hours of sitting in there getting a drip, 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 on Tuesday, 5 hours on Wednesday, 2 hours on Thursday, and if I didn't get home Thursday night, I was too crook for travel. So every second week, that was my life for 6 months. And I used to say, you know, I'd be getting back on the plane and I'd be walking like this, and old ladies in walking frames used to pass me. I was so slow, and it was embarrassing. But anyway, those things you got to live with. It's like the things Luke had to live with, and so on. So that was good. 6 months after chemo finished, there was some nodes and lumps that I was looking at in my lung, and between August and November they doubled in size, and the oncologist, being an oncologist, wanted to give me more chemo and then take them out, because he said, "We'll give you the chemo, we'll see if it works after we take them out." But the chest surgeon said, "Let's get them out now." And I said, "I'm with you, when in doubt, take it out." So we took out the lower half of the left lung, and nothing's wrong with me ever since. I'm fine. But that was a bit scary, but it was great surgery. I was only on aspirin, Panadol, something for a couple of days, and then I was right. I used to say after I had the surgery, I used to say, why is it everything so, and I read the word hard? And it's just everything I did was so hard for so long. I hardly ever say that now, but that was 16 years ago too. I used to go, and it's just an example of things like Luke can help people. I used to go every 6 weeks into the MARTA before ICON was here to have my portico flushed. And I went in this morning, and Maggie Fanner was still the nurse there, and also she was a public care nurse. And I went in, and Maggie said brightly, "You know, how are you this morning, Graham?" I said, "Maggie, I'm here to tell you there's life after cancer and chemo." And I walked past, and there were probably, I can't remember, 5 or 6 chairs, and I was the last chair. And all those people who I didn't know, but I could just feel them out the corner, just sit up, and lift their head up, and just take a breath. And I thought, I didn't think any more about it until when I was leaving, because I just had to have a flash, so I was pretty quick. And Maggie said, "See, Graham?" I said, "See, Maggie." And they all sat up, "See, Graham, thanks for coming." And so a little thing like that can make people feel better. Can just change the way they feel. You don't do anything on purpose, you don't know, it just happens. And so I thought that was great, and that sort of probably made me feel more like, you know, you can do little things to help a lot of people. And, you know, like I say about Luke, but also Paris helped me, and I was listening to him 3 years ago with my level of 7.5 or 5 or whatever. And just little things like that make such a difference. And you don't know how you're helping other people with their struggles. So from that day on, I was let loose on the world with my stoma. And I think I've got a thing I've got to show you. I must have been going backwards before, was I? No, I'm going backwards now. See, I'm 76, so I'm not an IT junkie. Yeah, so the things that I do, and I think you need to do things that just take your mind off stuff so that you can go and you can do things and feel comfortable. I love horse riding, I love camp drafting. This is just trail riding. This was a charity ride raising funds for, I don't know what year, that year, one year we did it, the first year after my surgery, then I started riding again. I did it on one of my horses, and I think I raised $4,500 for bowel cancer. And I rang people up that they thought they'd heard I was crook, they thought I was in hospital, they thought I was probably dead by now. And so they did really well and gave me generously to the cause. So that's real, that's surreal, that's another one of my horses. Now it's going the other way, and I'm pressing the wrong button. So these are 3 of my horses, so I can only fit 3 in my gooseneck, so that was good. But yeah, so I just poked along doing that. Then I did start camp drafting again, not very well, but I did, and I had fun. So this is, if you don't know about camp drafting, it's just this is the mare that I was talking about before, which I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh, the one I rode the day after I got the news. And you can see she's got her head on her chest and she hasn't got her feet on the ground, and she really isn't listening to me. And to really tell you the proper story, that's the second peg going back around it the wrong way, and I hadn't been around the first peg first. So, but it's a good photo. And this is another one, it's a mare called Casey. And camp drafting is a matter of working and picking cattle out of a camp, picking out one out of about 12 cows, working it up the front, getting it to chop backwards and forwards and hold it away from the others, then call for the gate, then you go out and round a peg like that, back around another peg this way, and then back around that way and through another 2 pegs to finish the course. And I did fall off a couple of times, but not that many. This is the horse I fell off several times. One day I was at the national final, and I wasn't competing in the final of the national finals, but I was turning back cattle, and a beast got out and galloped out when the fellow was having his run. And I'm galloping along beside this beast trying to keep it away from the main course, and I felt someone was there behind me. And so I looked. The cow was there, the horse was there, I was here, looking that way. Did that wrong, didn't I? That one. Anyway, the cow went that way, the horse propped, I went up, the horse went that way, I went splat, and it watered the arena, so I'm flat on my back. And the screen was as big as this whole area that they were filming the whole event, up on a big screen, and here's me splat. And the funny thing about that is that when you're coming down, it's almost like slow motion, and you can hear everyone going, and then of course, they all know me because I've been in the vet for 40 years, and they go, oh, are you all right? Well, because you get up and pretend nothing happened, except a big muddy patch on the shirt, which I left there for the day just to scride about it. So the purpose of that really is to show you that you can do things. You probably shouldn't, because it might be one of the things that created my hernia that I had, but I can't promise that. It could have been just tripping over a stick. So the other thing that people are afraid to do is to travel. And my son, and this is the one that's an engineer that I didn't think would be making me walk, but did. And he lives in Singapore, and I'd go to Singapore visit, and he'd say, Dad, we'll go join you here, we'll go to Cambodia or Vietnam or Thailand, and it's so easy to do. It's daunting to travel for 7 or 8 hours on a plane, to go that far thinking, how am I going to manage the stoma? Because the other thing that happened to me, if you go back to thinking about that part of my pelvis that's missing, the nerves that control the internal nerve, that controls your bladder, for me, is missing. So I don't know when my bladder's full. I don't know when I want to have a wee, and if I did, I can't. So I have to catheterise every couple of hours to empty my bladder. Otherwise, geez, you know, when you're walking like this because you've got water running down your legs. And that happened a few times in the camp draft. You're going around the second peg and suddenly there's something warm running down your leg. But anyway, you can still get on with life, swear about it, ride back to camp and get changed and get on with your day. So this is in Thailand. This is in Vietnam. And see, your kids get embarrassed when you do things. This little girl, it was national costume, and all dressed up in their national costumes for Chinese New Year. And this girl was looking great. I said, do you mind if we have a photo? And she said, oh, Dad, you can't do that. Dad, you can't do that. I said, of course I can. And not only did I have a photo, she wanted to cuddle into me to have a proper photo. And that was even better. But, so that's Vietnam, and I loved it. And it was scary. I was talking about to Luke last night, but I was called up in national service in the 60s, and I could have been in Vietnam, except that my vision was pretty bad, and they said, no, get out of here, we don't want to know about you. So I said, thank you very much. But it was a really emotional trip for me. And of course, 14 hours from Auckland to Buenos Aires, I went over on a cattle trip working over there, and we did 3 or 4 days from looking at cattle places and semen collection centres and processing centres and cattle studs around Buenos Aires. And then we went up to Resistencia in the north and went to a whole lot more places. And that was difficult. And also going back to, was Cambodia, my bag decided that I'd eaten something wrong, and I had to stop 3 times driving along with a guide and his vehicle and James, and get out on the side of the road and just change my bag, because I had to do it and pull open and everyone else watching, but no one could give a shit except me. I was just upset and worried about it. And of course the smell was something that you don't like to share with everyone either. But this was, I wasn't doing flamingo dancing. She was just posing at dinner afterwards. And then there was a bloke posing with all the girls. So I wasn't as lucky as I was. Oh yeah. Not quite up to that bit. I've just got to find pages again. I wish I had a page turner. There's a few things that happen. I want to talk about a lady. One day, Jenny, our wonderful and amazing stone nurse, rang me up and she said, look, do you mind ringing this lady? I'll give you a number, her name's so-and-so. She just rings me every day. She's come home with a stone last week and she just can't cope. She cries all every day and she rings me crying. She won't even go out to get the mail. So I said, sure. So I rang, talked to her for about an hour, told her all my silly stories about things that go wrong and things that have happened, and I had her laughing and giggling and stuff. And I said, now, please ring me back when you're down and out and you want to talk about it. I didn't hear from her, and the next time I saw Jen, I said, Jen, how about that lady? How'd she go? She said, I can't get her on the phone, she's never home. So that's another thing, you can just do something simple that just helps people move on from where they're at. And really, as a group, Ostomy Support Group, that's what we can do, and that's what we do. And it's great to be part of that. Just the thing, I think, it's important for people, if they're especially the new ostomers, to know that you can and you're available to use or able to use the handicap toilets. You don't have to say, oh, you know, I haven't got a broken leg, I'm on the wheelchair. You just can go in and use it. And one day I was in a Mount Pleasant in a handicap toilet, and this person banged on the door several times, and I was doing what I had to do. And when I came out, looking like this, except I had a little bag with me, and this lady abused the hell out of me. She said, what are you doing in there? You don't need to use that, you can use the men's toilet. And so I looked around, and there was no one there. I had a shirt that was hanging out, and I said, do you have one of these? Put it back down, and I had my catheter and my tube of KY in my pocket, and I just pulled it and I said, do you have to use these to have a wee? And then put them back. She still had the last word, but then I've been married, so I understand that. We had a meeting one time when we were having our ostomy group meetings at the library at Gordon White Library. We had a new person come, and he wasn't sure if he came to the right place. Didn't introduce him anything else, he just came to the door, lifted up his shirt, am I in the right place? So I tell that just because, you know, we're all so shy about it, and so awkward about admitting or showing, and before I had my hernia repaired a month ago, I was really nervous. It was sticking out here like it, and I just think, oh, I'd wear a loose shirt and walk around like this. So there's things that people don't really care, they don't really notice what I do, but they don't say. Then another time I had a phone call, because my name's in our little ostomy folder as the representative contact for our group. And this lady rang and she's just come home with a stoma. And actually I pulled a rude trick on the people in our meeting. I said to them, I've organised for us to go for a weekend away together just to bond and get to know each other better and things like that. Because I've got a lady who's a client who's got a stoma and she's just rung and she's a new stoma, right, and she's home and she's got a little resort up in Canberra. And she rang me and I didn't tell anyone, and I said, I'm not coming, but you can all go. And she was ringing because she and a partner ran a nudist colony. And I thought, oh, that'd be good, we can all go up there and just flash our bags and enjoy ourselves. But I did say I wasn't going. And it was just, she was ringing, and the thing she wasn't worried about was all the people that would see her with a bag naked. She's worried about her intimate relationship with her partner. And so there were books, the trade people had books there saying, intimacy in the home and things like that. And it's something that people won't talk about, they won't talk to our stomachs about, the doctor about, because they're too embarrassed. So anyway, one day I was on my deck, and I'm lucky I've got a lovely deck, and then about 12-foot drop, and then a bit of lawn, and then more trees, and then more lawn, and I'm out of town. And I could hear this noise going. So I looked over the deck, and here are two wobblies. And they were chasing, there was one chasing the other one up and down. One was a bigger one, one was a smaller one, and then there was a third one standing back, and he's sitting there thinking, when that fella trips over, I'm going to be the next one, and I'll get lucky. So they were chasing each other up and down, and they had ideas that I don't want to talk about right here. But the moral of the story is that you can still have sex even though you've got a stone. Even though you've got a pouch. So, sorry, I got that wrong. I brought that up. But yeah, so she had a pouch, and that didn't interfere with what they were going to get up to. I think it's important to be able to find what's good for you, to find comfort, relaxation, things that, and it might be mine or my horses. My other love is growing a few orchids, and I have a lot of fun with that. I don't know a hell of a lot about it. I'm learning, and I've got that one that's flowering at the moment actually. And that one's just finished flowering. These ones are flowering at the moment, not the yellow one, the other two. It only flowers for a day when it's going to rain, and I've had that for 5-6 years, but I was always away when it was flowering, and then now that I'm retired and back home, this is an interesting thing. Obviously the kookaburra with the snake hanging out his mouth. He came one day, sat on my railing, looked around, was really quiet. I thought, oh, that's nice. And the next day he came and he sat there in the same place. And he was so intent on looking at something in the garden, I could have walked up behind him and picked him up. Then the next thing, I'm just sitting there having coffee. The next thing, he's sitting on the end of my table, which is there on the left, with his kookaburra. And I think, oh, he's got it through his mouth. In actual fact, it wasn't. The head was down his neck, and every so often he'd go, and it'd go that much further, and then, and he sat there for 6 or 8 hours while he was following the snake. Never been back since. And my thinking in that is that he was in a safe place. He was there with me under my deck, so while he was incapacitated with the snake hanging out his tonsils, he was being protected. And so I thought, well, we really, especially when we come out of hospital, we just need that comfort, that security, the friends around us, and a safe place to be, to recover and get over what we're going through. So that was just the way I thought about it. So, and I just, it highlights the importance of just having family and friends there to support you. Our mascot, Spency. When we feel down and out, most of us are 20 plus, and we're dealing with it. Most of us are 50 plus. We're dealing with the thought of having to have a stoma. Little Spencer's got a stoma from day one, and he doesn't know any different. He's just such a tough little fella. And we need to think about how lucky we are that we didn't start lives like that. He won't know any different, but and we did. Although Ray was saying before, he's been unable to walk since he was about 30, and he's 60, and he's forgotten about what he could do before, and it's just that's the way he is, and that's the way he gets around. So I just want you to look at this little man, at how tough and strong and resilient he is, and how he's dealing with it. It's harder for his mum. As you can see there, she's totally devoted. It's harder for his mum to look after him and worry about his future and all those things that we've been talking about for his future. Now, there are I think Jenny, 2 other babies, tiny babies with stomers here. One's got 2 stomers, one's got 1. I haven't met them yet. There's also an 11-year-old who's had a stoma since she was 3. She deals with her own stoma. She changes her bag, she does everything herself. She's really independent. She played rugby league with the boys up until this year. So she's amazing. There's another, I think there's a teenage boy. He might even go to school, I'm not sure. I haven't met him either. But his mum did come to one of our meetings when I wasn't there. So these kids are getting on with their life, and they're probably doing it better than we do. And Luke, probably at 31 when you had your surgery?
Yeah.
At that? No.
Yeah, 32.
32, yeah. So that was really, what I want to do is people to go home and feel like that lady that I rang that wouldn't even go and get the mail. Yeah, you can live your life, you can do things, you can ride horses, you can grow orchids. You shouldn't lift and do heavy digging things, which I'm silly enough to do, but I'm not going to from now on because I just had the surgery again a month ago. But I just want people to feel that there is a life, there are things to do, and just get on with it, and just do it. So, I don't know whether I had any more slides. Oh, that one. Yeah, that's a mummy with a baby, and all sorts of worries and problems. But look at the love. And yeah, so we've got choices we can make. And if the glass is half empty, or if it's half full, or if you think it's half empty, it's only because you've already drunk the top half, and you're about to drink the second half. And the other thing is, these are some dumb people. Now it doesn't want to work for me. What did I do? Well, you can remember anyway, there was a bottle tipping the wine into the glass, and that bottle wasn't empty. And so, even if it was half full, the bottle was about to fill right up again. And that's the way we have to look at life. It's full, not half empty. And if it is getting empty, it's only because we drunk it, and we need to top it up again.